Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all my dear students. I hope you all are well and doing well study at your home. Welcome back to Subject English Class 7. We continue today with the chapter Prepositions. So students, first of all, take a grammar guide and open at page number 94. First we revise what we have learned in previous video. In previous video, we have seen the definition of prepositions, that prepositions show a noun or pronoun in relation to place, time, moment, position, manner, etc. Then we have seen simple preposition, at, on, under, behind. After, we have seen prepositions of time. So, first of all, we revise what is prepositions of time. Prepositions of time, at, in, on. We have seen yesterday that at we can use with clock time or meal time. At 10:30 a.m., at 8 o'clock, at bedtime, breakfast, at lunch, at dinner. In. It is used for months, years, decades, centuries, and long periods of time. In 16 years' time. In 1991. In December. So here look at it. The first one is long periods of time. Second is showing year. After, next is showing month. On is used for days and dates. On a summer evening, on Christmas Day, on Christmas, on Friday. After we have seen here that when there is a holidays, more than 1, 2, 3 holidays for Christmas. So you can say it's a short vacation. It's a holidays. So that time you have to use at Christmas holidays, at the weekend, etc. Then we have seen another point that when we use in with the part of the day, here we use day, that Friday. If I say in the morning, so that time is a part of the day, so that time we have to use in. But if you say that it's a part of the day, so we have to use on, so it's wrong. For that we have to use in when we are talking about the part of the day. The same when you're talking about part of the day in the morning, in the afternoon, but when you're talking about night, so that time we have to use at night. That time at night is correct, not in the night. After we have seen where we don't have to use at, in and on. When we use the word like last, next, these, every, etc. I received your message last Friday. So here I use the word last Friday. I didn't use here that on Friday, because I already used last. That time I cannot say that on last Friday. That time only we have to use last. I hope students, prepositions of time is clear to you. Now today we'll move to prepositions of place. So first of all, students, open at page number 94. Prepositions of place, at, in, on. Now earlier we have seen how to use at, on and in while talking about time. Now how to use this at, in, on when we are talking about particular place, area or some space, some points of space. Now here 4 rules given to you to remember to use these prepositions of place in a correct way. Now look at rule number 1. We use at to talk about a position, a point in space. Now this whole rule number 1 is talking about at, that where to use at. At to talk about a position, a point in space. The number 1 in rule number 1. For example, that's an old man at the gate. Here one particular space, one particular point of space is given to you. They were waiting at the bus stop. Once again, at the bus stop. Bus stop is a one particular place. So we have to use at. We are pointing that particular place. So for that we have to use at. Turn left at the traffic light, or you can say at the next corner. Once again, one traffic light is showing one particular space. You are pointing that space. So for pointing any particular space or any position, we have to use at. Now another point where to use at. Events or group activities. For example, was Radha at the party is a one kind of event, party. So before we have to use at. I saw David at a tennis match. Tennis match is a group activity. So for that we have to use at. There were not many people at the meeting. At the meeting is also a group activity. So here also before we have to use at. So not only prepositions of place is showing place almost, but sometimes we have to remember that for showing events or group activities also we have to use at. The number 3, shops or workplaces. For example, I saw him at the baker's shop, at the supermarket. One particular shop is a place only. One particular shop, you are talking about one particular shop. So that time also you have to use at the shop, at the baker's. He's at the doctor's. One particular place. Workplace, doctor's. Now number 4, a person's house or flat. For example, I had tea at Anand's house or flat. Is a one particular place of person, house or flat. So here we can use at for the position, to show position or to show any space, any point in a space, or to show any events or group activities. For shops or workplaces also we have to use at. And to point out any person's house or flat too we have to use at. Number 5, an exact address. For example, he lives at 43 Ambedkar Street. If you know the perfect address of particular person, so that time you have to use at. Here written the word exact address. Are you still at the same address? Means before you are living that particular address, the same address are you living? So here you know, because before also you are living there and might be now or not. So for that also we have to use at. So here 5 things you have to remember where to use at in prepositions of place. In prepositions of time we have learned that for showing time, clock time, and for showing the lunch time, you can say dinner means meal time, dinner, lunch, evening, breakfast. In prepositions of time we have to use at in this 3 way. But in prepositions of place we have to use at in a 5 way. To show a position or point in space. Number 2, events or group activities. Shops or workplaces or person's house or flat, or when you know the exact address of the person. For that we have to use prepositions of place, at. Now we'll move to the rule number 2. In this we'll learn how to use in. Now in second rule, we use in when we see something as having volume or area. Means one particular area, when you want to say something, when you see something as having that particular area or volume. For that we have to use in. For example, mother is in the kitchen. You see that place, and now you are saying something about that particular area. For that we have to use in. Mother is in the kitchen. I had 30 rupees in my pocket. The children were playing in the park. We use in when we see something. Here, these things you have to remember. When we see something as having volume or area. So for that, park is one particular area. Pocket, you can say, is having some volume. In the kitchen is the area. So for that, we have to use in preposition. Now rule number 3, once again we back to at and in. We often use at with a building when we are thinking of the activity that happens there. We use in when we mean inside the building. We often use at to show about the building, house or flat that we have already learned in a rule number 1. Even we have learned that when there is group activities happen or some events happen, for that we have to use at. But now here another things that we use in when we mean inside the building. Means you want to say something which is going on inside that particular building. For that we have to use in. For example, we were at the cinema last night. That's fine that you are talking about one particular building. That you were at the cinema last night. We are watching a film that. Definitely that you are talking about cinema means in cinema people are going to watch the film. But when you mention that things, it was very cold in the cinema. You are talking about the temperature of cinema. Inside what happened? Inside the cinema, how you feel. So for that you have to use in. That time if you use at, so it's wrong. It was very cold at the cinema, that's wrong. So here, you went to cinema at the cinema last night, that's correct one. That time if you use we were in the cinema last night, it's wrong. At the cinema. It was very cold inside in the cinema. So for that we have to use in. I hope students, this all 3 rules are clear to you. In number 1 rules we have seen that how to use at, where to use at. And we have seen 5 points to remember how to and where to use at. In rule number 2 we have seen that when we see something which having volume or area, for that we have to use in. In rule number 3 we have learned that when you are talking about only particular building and activity, for that we have to use at. But what's happening inside the building, for that we have to use in. Now we'll move to rule number 4. We use in with cities, towns and villages when we are thinking of them as places having length and breadth. We normally use at when we see the city, town or village as a point on a journey. Yes, here we have to use in for city, towns and villages when we are thinking of them as a one particular place having some length and breadth. But normally what we are using at when we see anything. Now look at the example. We stayed in London for 2 days. Here one particular area, one particular place. that we stayed there in London for 2 days. But look at the next one. Our plane stopped at London on the way to New York. Here, while doing journey of New York, our plane stopped there. So that time you have to use at. But when you stay there and you maybe you wandering there, so that time you have to use in. They live in Raipur. Does this train stop at Raipur station? So while doing journey, you are asking that does this train stop at Raipur? So that time at is correct. But when you're asking some person that he lives in Raipur, they live in Raipur, so for that you have to use in. That time if you use at, so it's a wrong. Now we'll move to the last rule number 5. We use in to talk about a road or street. In American English, they are using on. Almost we are using British English, so we have to use in. The Mehtas live in Museum Road or Tilak Street. So when we're talking about some particular road or street, we have to use in. But in American English, people are using on. So when you're talking about one particular street or road, so for that we have to use in. So for in, you have to remember 2 things. That in 3 things you have to remember. 1, that when you see something as having volume or area, you have to use in. Then number 2, this one, that when you're talking about street or road, you have to use in. And when you are talking about the towns and cities and villages, you are thinking of them as a place having length and breadth, or you are living there or you went there. But when you are doing just journey near that area, so for that we have to use at. So students, I hope that this all 5 rules are clear to you. Now we'll move to one exercise which is given in your textbook at page number 95. Fill in the blanks with the suitable simple prepositions. Now simple prepositions means at, in and on. So you have to use here at, in or on. Number 1. I had a cup of coffee dash Mary's house. Now here Mary's house is a house or flat. We have learned that when you are talking about person's house or flat, we have to use at. So here Mary's house means we have to use at. I had a cup of coffee at Mary's house. Number 2, there was a man sitting dash the waiting room. Now waiting room, the person is inside the waiting room. When you are talking about the things which is happened in particular inside the building, you have to use in. So here in will come. There was a man sitting in the waiting room. Number 3, the map is dash page 48. The map is on page 48. Number 4, write your name dash the top of the page. Now here on the top of the page we're wrong. Here you have to use at the top of the page. And number 5, the Prime Minister spoke to the nation dash the television. On the television. So students, complete these 5 blanks with the pencil in your textbook at page number 95. Still, if you have any doubts in prepositions of place and prepositions of time, so you can write in the comment box, and in the next video I'd solve your doubts. Listen it again and again and try to understand it. And if you have any doubts, you can write in the comment box and complete this all exercise in your textbook with a pencil. Thank you students, and have a great day.